You bend down to tie your shoe, and somewhere on the way back up, your body makes a noise it definitely didn't used to make. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet little reminder that you're not 22 anymore. If you've had that moment, that small, slightly funny wake-up call, this video is for you, because what you do in the years right after it matters more than you'd think. Before we go further, a quick, honest note. This is general information about habits that research associates with healthy aging, not medical advice, and not a promise of any particular outcome. Nobody can hand you extra years. What science can offer is something gentler and more useful. A clearer picture of the habits most consistently linked to aging well, so you can make your own informed choices. For anything specific to your health, your own doctor is always the best guide. With that said, let's talk about why your 30s and 40s might be the most important window you're not thinking about. Here's the thing most people get backwards. We tend to imagine that longevity is a concern for later, something to deal with in our 60s when the warranty starts running out. But the research tells a quieter, more interesting story. The way you age in your 70s and 80s is shaped, in large part, by patterns you set decades earlier. Your future health isn't a switch you flip at 60. It's a garden you've been planting all along. Think of it a little like compound interest, the financial idea where small amounts saved early grow into something remarkable over time. Health works in a strangely similar way. A habit started at 35 has decades to quietly accumulate, to lay down a foundation, to become simply who you are rather than something you have to force. The same habit started at 65 still helps. It genuinely does, and it's never too late to begin, but it has less time to compound. That's not a reason for guilt if you're older. It's a reason for gentle excitement if you're younger. You're holding the most valuable asset there is, time. And the wonderful news is that the planting is simpler than the wellness industry wants you to believe. Because if you've spent any time looking into longevity, you've probably felt a little overwhelmed. There are people tracking every heartbeat, swallowing handfuls of pills, taking ice baths before sunrise, spending fortunes chasing a few extra years. It's easy to assume that living long is a full-time job with an expensive equipment list. But when researchers actually study the people who live the longest, including the communities sometimes called the blue zones, regions where people regularly reach their 90s and beyond, they find something almost disappointing in how simple it is. These people aren't biohacking. Most of them have never heard the word. They're just living, day after day, inside a handful of quiet habits. And those habits are mostly free, mostly ordinary, and entirely possible to start right now. So let's walk through the ones the research keeps pointing to. Not as rules, not as a checklist to feel guilty about, just as a calm map of where the strongest evidence sits. Let's start with the one almost everyone underestimates: movement. Not exercise, exactly. Not the punishing gym routine you start every January and abandon by February. The longest-lived people don't tend to work out in the way we think of it. Instead, movement is woven into their ordinary day. They walk to see a friend. They tend a garden. They take the stairs because there isn't an elevator. Their bodies stay in gentle, constant motion, almost without trying. Research consistently links regular, moderate physical activity with better health as we age. For the heart, the brain, the muscles, the mood. And the encouraging part is that it doesn't require an athlete's dedication. A daily walk, taking the stairs, standing up and moving every hour instead of sitting for 8 straight. These small, repeatable things, started in your 30s and carried forward, tend to matter far more over a lifetime than any heroic burst of fitness you can't sustain. The best movement, it turns out, is the kind you'll actually keep doing. Now, a gentle word here, because this is where people sometimes hurt themselves. If you've been mostly still for a while, you don't need to launch into anything intense to prove a point. Easing in gently and checking with a doctor before a big change in activity if you have any health concerns is the wiser path. Longevity isn't built in a weekend. The second habit is one we love to sacrifice first and regret most: sleep. In your 30s and 40s, sleep is often the first thing to go. There's so much to do, and the night feels like spare time you can borrow against. But sleep isn't downtime. It's when your body does some of its most important repair work, when the brain clears waste, consolidates memory, and resets for the day ahead. Chronic short sleep is associated in research with a whole range of poorer health outcomes over time. You don't need a perfect, optimized sleep routine with gadgets and graphs. You mostly need to stop treating sleep as optional. A reasonably consistent bedtime, a dark, cool room, a little wind-down time away from screens. These aren't luxuries you'll earn someday. They're foundations, and they pay quiet compound interest for decades. If you struggle with sleep in a way that doesn't improve, That's worth a conversation with your doctor, because persistent sleep trouble can sometimes signal something worth looking at. The third habit surprises people because it has nothing to do with your body at all: connection. When researchers look at what predicts a long, healthy life, strong relationships show up again and again, often as powerfully as any physical factor. The famous, decades-long Harvard study of adult development followed people across their entire lives, and one of its clearest findings was that the quality of our relationships is one of the strongest predictors of how well we age, in body as well as in mind. This is the one most worth protecting in your 30s and 40s, precisely because it's so easy to let slide. Friendships take effort. They get crowded out by work and busyness and the simple exhaustion of a full life. But loneliness, research suggests, isn't just painful. It's genuinely hard on the body over time. The phone call you keep meaning to make, the friend you keep meaning to see. Those aren't distractions from a productive life. They may be among the most quietly important things you do for your future self. The fourth is the one with the most noise around it. So let's keep it calm and simple. Food. You do not need a perfect diet. You do not need to fear entire food groups or chase the supplement of the month. When you look at how the longest-lived communities eat, the pattern is reassuringly unglamorous. Mostly plants, plenty of vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts. Food cooked at home more often than not. Meat and sweets enjoyed, but not as the center of every meal. Nothing extreme, nothing branded. The research here is about patterns, not single magic foods. No berry, no powder, no pill has ever been shown to hand you a longer life on its own. What's consistently associated with healthy aging is the overall shape of how you eat, built gently over years. And the goal isn't restriction or punishment. It's nourishment. A way of eating you actually enjoy and can carry for decades is worth far more than a strict plan you'll quietly abandon. If you have specific dietary needs or health conditions, a doctor or a registered dietitian is the right guide for what fits you. There's one more thread that runs underneath all of these, quieter than the rest: a sense of purpose. In some of the longest-lived cultures, there's a word for it: the feeling of having a reason to get up in the morning. It sounds soft, almost too gentle to matter. But researchers have found that a sense of meaning and purpose is associated with better health and longer life. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be work you care about, people who depend on you, a craft, a garden, a cause. Something that gives your days a shape and your years a direction. And close beside purpose sits something just as quietly powerful: how you handle stress, not the absence of it, because a life without any stress isn't a real life. But the longest-lived people tend to have built small, daily ways of letting pressure go before it hardens into something chronic. A nap in the afternoon, a slow meal shared with others, a few minutes of quiet, a prayer, a walk, a moment on the porch watching the day go by. Chronic, unmanaged stress is associated in research with poorer health over time, and the antidote isn't some elaborate program. It's the small, regular release valves we so often skip when life gets busy. In your 30s and 40s, often the most stressful stretch of all, building even one of those quiet habits is a gift to your future self. You'll notice none of these ask you to overhaul your entire life overnight. That's the point. The wellness world loves a dramatic transformation, the 30-day challenge, the complete reinvention. But the science of aging well is almost boringly patient. It rewards the small thing done 1,000 times far more than the big thing done once. A short walk most days will quietly outperform the gym membership you use twice. The friendships you keep watering will outlast any supplement regimen. Consistency, not intensity, is the quiet hero of this whole story. Now, here's where I want to be careful and clear with you, because reassurance should never tip into pressure. None of this is about doing everything perfectly. It's not a competition, and it's certainly not a source of guilt. If you read this list and feel like you're behind, please don't. The entire point is that starting from wherever you are, today, is enough. You don't catch up on a lifetime of health in a frantic week, and you don't need to. And while these habits are gentle and broadly safe, your own situation is unique. If you have existing health conditions, if something feels off, or if you're planning a significant change to how you move, eat, or sleep, that's exactly the kind of thing to bring to your own doctor, who can look at your whole picture with care. Understanding the general science is empowering, but it doesn't replace someone who actually knows you. So let's go back to that little noise your body made when you stood up. It's easy to hear it as a warning, the beginning of decline, but you can hear it another way, as an invitation, a small, well-timed nudge arriving at exactly the right moment, early enough to matter, gentle enough to act on without panic, because the truth underneath all of this is genuinely hopeful. The habits that shape how you age aren't dramatic, expensive, or out of reach. They're the quiet, ordinary things available to you right now, today, in your 30s or 40s or whenever you happen to be hearing this. Move in ways you enjoy. Protect your sleep. Tend your friendships. Eat with nourishment in mind. Hold on to your sense of purpose. None of these are guarantees. Life holds no guarantees. But they are, as far as the science can tell us, among the kindest things you can do for the person you'll be in 40 years. And if this gave you a clearer, calmer way to think about your own future, here's a gentle thought. You almost certainly know someone. A friend, a sibling, someone in that same busy stretch of life who carries the same quiet worry that they should be doing more. Consider sharing this with them. Not as a lecture, just as a calm map you found useful. And if you do, come back and leave a comment about how it felt to pass it along. Those small connections are part of what this whole channel is for. That person you'll be in 40 years is already listening to the choices you make today. So be kind to them. Start gently. Start now. And maybe the next time your body makes that funny little noise, you can smile, because you'll know exactly what it's asking you to do.